going over rotations in 4.2. So every single time the opposing team scores, they can score a numerous amount of times. It does not matter how much they score. You only rotate once they score, then your team scores. Once your team scores once after they score, you guys rotate. So first, we're going to show rotate with setter lock. The setter locks, all the positions change from 1, but the setters stay. But the setter in front row stays in the same position. So this is what it's going to look like. So everybody moved one sideways except for the setter right here. The real position of the setter is right here. In random 4, they're supposed to be in the setter position, but because of setter lock, they switch. But their real positions are flip-flop from each other. So once the opposing team scores and then you score, everybody rotates once. And this setter moves up to the setter position, and the setter from this position, they move down. So it'll look something like this. So the setter from this position, they move up to here, and the setter from this position, from the setter spot that is supposed to be here, the next rotation, they're supposed to be down here. So now it's going to look like this. Next rotation, the person in the setter spot down here, they move just over. The person in the setter spot stays here, and they're supposed to be in this position now. So this is the right positions. Next time the opposing team scores, then you score. This is what it's supposed to look like. So these are the normal positions, but the setter and random 2 swap places because of setter lock. So next time the opposing team scores, then you score. The setter that was supposed to be in this position, they move down, and this setter moves up to take their spot. Then everybody else rotates like normal. Every time there's a setter rotation, the front row doesn't change except for the setters. The back row does change though. So next up, we're going to be doing setter lock and lib lock at the same time. This is where it might get a little confusing, just to note. So be wary, this is the most confusing part of the video. So when the opposing team scores, then your team scores. The person that's on lib, the other lib is supposed to be in this position. They're moving up. So they'll move there. So now the positions should look something like this. The lib that just moved down from front row, they move over to right here. And the setters don't change position. The setter that is supposed to be here, they're here instead. Next time points are done, this is what the rotation is going to look like. This lib is going to stay in the same position, and they're supposed to be here, but everybody else rotates except for this setter. So this is what the positions are supposed to look like now. So now if the opposing team scores, this setter moves down, this setter moves up, and this lib stays in the same position because realistically, they're in the setter position. It's just the setter and lib flip-flopped. So now that we have that, the setter that was in the setter position, they just move down to right here, and the setter that was in this position that rotates up, they move to the setter position. The spikers stay in the same position, and random 2 and the setter, they flip positions, even though the rotation is supposed to look like random 2 being in the center and the setter over on the left side. So next time points are done, the lib over here, they move down and over to the middle. This lib moves up over here, and the setter positions stay the same. This setter is supposed to be here, and this setter is supposed to be here, but they don't rotate because of lib lock. Now, the next time points are pointed, this is what it's going to look like. Now, this lib is in the right position. This setter is supposed to be over in this position. This guy moves up, this lib goes over, this guy moves down. Now it's time for another setter rotation. So once points are pointed, this setter moves down, this setter moves up, and then front row doesn't rotate. This is the only person that rotates because the libs stay in their lock position. This lib is supposed to be here, but they stay in the lib lock position, and this lib moves from this position to this position. And next rotation, the libs will switch places. This lib will be in front row, and this lib locks. So once the points are done, this is what it's going to look like. This lib from back row that is supposed to be here, now that they're rotating, they're going up here. This person shifts over to the right to be the right spiker, and this lib, they're supposed to be in this position, but they move back to middle. So that's a full rotation. Since lib lock is the same for 5.1 and 4.2, since the only thing that really changes is the setter's position, I'm not going to be showing lib lock in 5.1. I'm only going to go over setter lock and the rotations when it comes to that inside of Tournament League. Now on to the 5.1 rotations. So once the points are pointed, this setter is supposed to move down. This setter moves all the way over, and these two positions just move left, random 1 and random 2. So now, if the opposing team scores, then your team scores. Pretty much everybody rotates on that one except for this setter. Every single position rotates. Then, once again, if the other team scores, then your team scores. Everybody rotates except for this setter. Now these are the positions. Now it's time to setter rotate again. So once the points are counted, this setter moves down, this setter moves over, and random 3 and 4, they move over. It should just look like this, and the rotations just happen like normal. Everybody rotates, and waiting for the rotations to happen again. This setter moves down, this setter moves over, and then it starts all over again. If you guys want more videos on stuff like no blocking or something else rotation wise that I didn't go over, just leave it in the comments and I'll respond whenever I can. For now, have a good one.